Hello friends, how are you all doing? Hope you all had a great week. Wow, it's the 7th episode of #NoFilter. Thank God that He has brought us this far. I believe that the Lord has greater plans through this segment. Today I have a very special person in my life. She's young, yet so dynamic, prudent, and she's pretty much discerning. And I have a very interesting topic today for us guys. It is about understanding the difference. So you guys stay tuned as me and Sharon chat this interesting topic out.
Hi Akka,
How are you?
and Akka, how are you?
I'm good too. I'm very excited to have you. Though you're way younger than me, I find it thrilling to talk to you because you are a lady with a lot of wisdom and discernment. So I love talking to you. Thank God for that. So today, since you, as I said, you are a woman with discernment, I want to bring a complex and a sensitive topic between us, that is understanding the difference. So the difference that we are going to deal with today is about understanding the difference with in relation to difference with different people.
Correct.
So my first question is, how do you define a difference?
So something that's unusual, or something that you've not encountered before, something that's not normal or casual for you, is a difference to a person, is what I feel.
So something that is not relatable.
Yes, something that you've not experienced, something that is not a part of your life or not a part of your thoughts. I think that's a difference.
Okay, so when we relate this thing with the people around us, how do you find it to mix around with people with a difference of everything, maybe when it regards to ethnicity or culture or thought process? How do you find yourself to be when you're around these people? How do you manage to mix around with people with different thoughts or what different from you?
Okay, so I'll be very honest with this, and I'll say it starts from my house. Sometimes when I talk to my mom, when I talk to my brother, or when I talk to my family members, some of them, I say that we don't think the same way about everything. We don't have the same take about everything. And it goes about the same way when we meet our friends also. It seems like when you make a friend, you see that there's an instant connection. But as you spend more and more time with those people, you realize how different their life and how different their culture, or how different the way they think, the things they do are completely and entirely something that you don't do, or something that you don't experience. So I realize that we have differences, we have things that we don't agree with. So, but then they're family, they're friends. So there's a connection to them. There's a level of values. I mostly end up having relationships or having friends who have the same thought. Like mostly when I'm becoming friends with somebody, I realize that there's honesty in our relationship.
So what you meant to say is that you will try to find a common ground to start with.
Yes. Every time we observe that there's a difference in culture, or there's a difference in opinion, or there's a difference in how you experience life, but there's also something between you and them that connected you in the first place. So, I don't know, a thought that you both had at the same time, or an answer that you gave in a lecture while your teacher is asking you, or a comment that you is saying something. So it can be anything, but there's a common ground. But then you realize that connection is not bothered because of the differences.
If I can add to what you just said, even when I try to find out the same favorite artist or a TV show or a series, whatever it is. We just try to find a common ground to first start the establishment of the communication.
Yes.
Okay, that's nice. So let me ask you the next question. How difficult it is to mix with people when you understand that there is a clear-cut difference between you and that person. Maybe it is in the way you think or whatever it is. How difficult do you find it?
So initially what happens is you connect. Mm-hmm. You totally see that a version of you in themselves, and you can get connected to this person. Mm-hmm. But then later you realize how different you are from each other. Mm-hmm. But it is very difficult. Initially you think you agree on everything, and then later you realize that you don't agree on so many things. This has happened to me in almost every relationship. Mm-hmm. You realize that you're not the same. You realize that this is not what I agree with, but they totally agree with it, and they're advocating it. Sometimes you have friends who are like, how can you even say that? How can you not support it? And stuff like that. So yeah, it's extremely difficult at times. Mm-hmm. You could have developed a more than other things and other values or other opinions or perceptions that they have, mm-hmm. and then you realize the kind of person they are. So you make a judgment of who they are in your head. So now it's more about the experience and the journey that you've had with them, and less about the things that you don't agree with. Okay. So that's how I deal with how to keep the relationship in spite of so many differences. It's more about the experience.
That's nice. So that brings me to my next question. We now hear this famous phrase in the world even, agree to disagree. So how does this phrase play its significance in your life?
I can say that I am one of those people who's had a lot of non-believer friends, mm-hmm. a lot of people who don't consider Christ to be their mm-hmm. God, or he's just another God for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So that's where the biggest difference between them and me starts. So almost with every thought that I have, mm-hmm. to every thought that they have, we all have to agree to disagree. Mm-hmm. Like I said earlier, it's the experience. Mm-hmm. We've lived moments together, we've journeyed together, we've seen things, as standing from the same point of view, mm-hmm. or we've sometimes emoted together, we've cried together, we've had our own fights, but the whole point was we were together. Mm-hmm. We had our share of journey together. Mm-hmm. So every time we disagree, mm-hmm. we agree to the people that we are, mm-hmm. and the people that we were together.
Wow.
So we always have to disagree to who we think certain things and who people are, who world is. So we might disagree on that, but we always end up agreeing to what we've been together and what we've been to each other.
Wow, that's so nice what you said, Sharon. Even your words just reminded me of what Ravi Zacharias says. He says that we are here to win people, but not to win arguments. And that so much aligns with what you said. That's amazing. So my next question is, it's not always easy for us to, or else if I can say, we don't always get the choice to choose to be or not to be with the people who are different with us. For example, it might be in a college or a classroom setup, or in an office setup where we are surrounded by people who are different with us, and sometimes we might not even like to have such kind of people around us, but yet we have to somehow get along with them. So how do you think that we can get along in these kind of situations and circumstances?
I love people. So it has to do a lot with, because I believe with Christ. Mm-hmm. He's opened my eyes to being empathetic, to loving people as they are, and to forgiving who they are, mm-hmm. And what to do. So I agree with the fact that it's very difficult sometimes when you come across people whom you think are doing things to hurt you. Sometimes you feel like that, they're doing this on purpose, or mm-hmm. you always have things inside of you and you feel like, oh, this is just not what I agree with. I cannot get along with this person. Mm-hmm. So that's where I tell myself that there's so many things that I do. My brother keeps telling me that just like we were having French fries and much mayonnaise, and I'm like, why are you eating so much mayonnaise? And he said, that's how you eat peanut butter. So it's so important that, when I see somebody, I see that I just can't get along with these people. I remember how Christ is getting along with me. There might be so many things that I don't like doing, but his love surpasses that and it goes beyond that. So I realized that when I am being forgiven of so much, I think it's one step to look beyond the differences, because most of the time it's not even that they're doing something wrong, it's just what they're doing that you don't like. In the start, it might seem like it's something wrong, completely unacceptable, but later when life has a crazy ride, it will take you on journeys where you end up doing the same thing. So I realized that, and I see that it's not wrong what they're doing unless you live in their shoes. It's something just that you don't like. So it's really looking beyond yourself and telling yourself that maybe it's not something that's wrong, maybe it's something that just you don't like, and you can't say, and you can't be a brat and say that, I'm not going to do this because I don't like it.
That's nice.
In most cases, that's what it is. It's something you don't like.
That's amazing. So the bottom line is love.
Yes.
So we might not like everybody at the first glance, but we can always give them a space for a room for love.
Correct. Love for yourself, like making it less about yourself and love for everybody who's like you.
That's amazing. So eventually that love as well might turn into a little bit of liking as well.
Yes, absolutely.
That's right. That's amazing. So if I can summarize everything you said, you were pointing towards a particular kind of love, that is the love of Christ. So how has your life been affected by the love of Christ? Even you understand that the more you realize about God's love and you might be as well understanding that there is a difference between the mindset you have and the mindset that he is calling you into. So how does this walk take place? Like, how does you ascend from one step to another, stepping ahead of your differences? How do you how does this journey look like for you?
So my journey with Christ started like really young, when I was really young. It's always been from a perspective of, I don't remember who, but when I was a kid, somebody told me that, think of him as a boyfriend, think of him as a lover. So that's how I started looking at Christ. So the one thing that I used to watch in movies or everywhere is you like spending time with those people, you like having conversation with the people that you call your boyfriend. So that's how it started for me. So, and then later I listened to more and more sermons, and the more and more word I read, I realized it's so much more about the little conversations you have with God every day, the little things that you do. So what happens is people really try to read the Bible, and they try to put so much pressure on themselves to understand everything, that they forget that God can be so much more. Like he will bring your wisdom, he will guide you back to the Bible so you can understand it right, but you can have so many more experiences with God. Definitely you have to read the word, you have to meditate the word, because wisdom comes from there. But I'm talking about experiences. So if you can look beyond, open your eyes every day, from 1 minute conversation to a 30-second conversation, God can just open your eyes to so many things. Like, I can share a testimony right now. We got a small little dog, and he's so adorable. He's just 2 months, and we've got so many plants in the house, and we had fishes from earlier. So we watch these news every day about COVID-19, about how people are like, it's not a happy place for the world right now. Very difficult. So many people are suffering, but not forgetting all of that and always praying for them and keeping them in our mind. I was just sitting there and having a conversation with God in my head, and then God just told me, just look around you. there's no life in the world right now, but there's so much life around you.
Wow.
There's so much life. The plants that are like, it's like we don't know how, but they're growing so well without us doing much. And then there's this dog who's running around all the time. And then there's the fishes. And then me, my family sitting together. We're having more prayers now. We're realizing more of God. We're reading more of His Word. And He just pointed out and made me look through. And He's like, just look around. There's so much life.
Wow.
I mean, that's something that only God can do. Because you look at the news, you look at the social media, there's so many things happening that are so disheartening. I look around in my own house and there's so much life. And that's something that only God can do. He can only point you to those beautiful, godly, holy, and amazing moments that come. And that's something only Jesus can do. So
that's amazing, Sharon. So what you said is so true, and if I can just put it in one phrase, that place of devotion, the place of reading the Word is where our heart cracks open and where these differences start melting, and when we enter into that place of the perspective of Christ. That's amazing. So my last question to you is that if you have any suggestion for people who are facing this difficulty to get along with with differences, maybe with people or circumstances or situations, what would you suggest or what would you advise them?
So I would really say that I still have a lot of trouble getting along with a lot of people. I still don't like so many people, and I struggle with it on a daily basis. But the more you spend time with Jesus, and the more you learn about who Jesus is, that's where the more you spend time with Jesus, the more you learn about yourself, and the more you read Word, the more you learn who Jesus is. You realize that you're rubbing off His character on you.
Wow.
So that's what happens to me. That's how I learn. That just baby steps, one person at a time. If I remember that, there's a resentment in my heart for this person, I try to look for references in the Bible where people had resentment and how God treated that situation, or how God. Because the more and more we can only learn about ourselves when we're having experiences with Jesus, and we can learn so much more of who Jesus is, and then how it can rub off on you and how we're the same.
Wow.
That's what God will do. He'll show you how you are His child, and that's how He'll show you how to eliminate these differences with people. Wow. And how He'll show you universally we're all the same, and how the more you learn about Him, the more you learn about His plans. And He'll show you His plan for you first, and then for your family, and then for your community, and then for His church and His kingdom, and then the whole world.
Discovering ourselves in God, and then realizing how loved we are, that opens our eyes to see how people are also struggling in their own pace. So that allows us to into an environment of acceptance.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for this amazing chat. I'm looking forward to talk to you again with another interesting topic.
Me too.
God bless you, Sharon. I'll see you soon.
God bless.
Bye.
So friends, #NoFilter winds up on the beautiful note that has been given by Sharon. Everybody is precious and important, and who else can better teach us than Jesus? While He walked on this earth, He loved everyone equally and has shown grace and mercy, especially to the most undeserved. And in His love, all the inhibitions and the differences in our hearts, they break open. If you have not known Jesus yet, please invest time on knowing Him and knowing about Him, because time invested on Jesus is never wasted. This week's episode is specially dedicated to the world situation right now, with the differences in between the races and all the hatred. Let us be peace promoters by bridging the gaps, by bridging the bridges of love in the gaps of differences. We hope this week's episode has helped you guys. I'll come to you guys next week with another important topic. Until then, have a blessed week. God bless. Shalom.